Hello, darlings. Malia West here. Welcome to Love, Truth, and Beauty. This is episode 344. And today is our fifth installment of my new video series called Conversations with Women. And I have with me today a very, very special woman whom I was introduced to by a mutual friend. Shout out to Renee, wherever you are. We don't know where you are. And I want to welcome Malia Wong Ho Okano. Hi, darling. Hi, beautiful. Nice to see
Hi, how are
you.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. And I'm excited to have you because you've always struck me as a real deal woman. You have kids, you have relationships, you have work, you've got it all going on, and you're in a beautiful paradise known as Kauai, where I used to spend much of my time, when my mother just didn't want to deal with me, send me off to relatives. So I want to hear all about what's happening. What are the lessons? I know that you've been through a lot. We've all been through a lot over the last few years. And, this series is really about, getting to the meat and potatoes of how do we transcend shit shows, change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all about the choices we make, right?
Yes.
It's really about where you want to go and how you want to feel and what you focus on.
Yeah.
And I choose to be better. I've always been that child that wanted more, always went against the grain, so to speak. They called me, well, I grew up where they called me Nuha, which I learned that is not the appropriate description for me. And I thought Nuha was like stubborn or, but it's actually called Pa'akiki, which is hard head.
Aha.
And I feel like my hard-headedness is definitely one of my strengths.
Awesome.
Because I don't allow people to tell me what to do, how to feel. I'm not easily influenced, although at one time I thought I was.
Well, what made you think that you were easily influenced?
Because of the way I was raised, mainly an Asian background. So, it's always about being of service, uh, being seen and not heard.
Oh,
Uh, yeah. It's
yeah.
just, and obedience, to be obedient. And I don't feel like I was too much of a child, like a troubled child, but I did get myself into some troubles. And,
Like what
you
kind of
know,
trouble per se?
well, I did become a mother at 19. I just did the typical teen stuff,
Yeah.
where you rebel against your parents, you go to party, that kind of stuff. I had a very strict household, so I wasn't really allowed to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, I was a little bit of a free spirit, and a couple times I, escaped and didn't come back for a couple days. And then, you learn through those hard times where, okay, everything has a consequence.
Yes.
And that, because I made choices like that, it led to me being a young mom, which was not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was that girl that said, oh, I want to travel the world. I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids, yada, yada, yada. And then here I am. I become a mom, and it's been the greatest mission that I've ever had in my life.
Oh, I love hearing that. How many kids do you have?
I have two. My daughter is 34, and my son is 25. They're 8 years apart. Um, but they're also my best friends. They're
Aw.
also, and within reason, I've always had boundaries. You could ask my kids. I am that mom that is your friend, but I'm also still the mom. So I always kept the line, and I've always came into it where I'm not perfect. I'm
Mhm.
growing too. And, I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm not going to make like I know everything. And, because I kind of
That's so
came from
good.
that.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y-
Well, moms are human, we make mistakes and
Yeah.
we do the best that we can and we want the best for our kids. So, but it's also good not to be a hypocrite because I've noticed a lot of mothers play that role. Maybe because they just, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Um, my opinion is that, they don't want to lose power over the
Yes.
kids, and so, um, you as long as you hold the line as far as, because kids are smart, even when they're little, they
They
are
are.
so smart.
They can see right through
And
you.
yes. And see, I kind of put myself in their position and think, how was I? How was I thinking at that age? Um, I realize I'm an empath. So I definitely feel and look from the other person's view
Mm-hmm.
instead of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, teaching the kids has been through that lens. Because, you know, I do sometimes throw the mommy card. My daughter
Sometimes
can,
we have to. Sometimes we have, but I
yes,
think it's good that you see them as individuals and human beings. They're on their own path. So
yes,
the consideration of, okay, let me switch this around. I
yeah,
think that's crucial. I did that with my kids too. And I think they were able to thrive because I didn't try to crush them like I was being
no,
crushed when I was, growing up.
same. Right. And well, and it's a fine line because you want them to come to you. You don't want them to go somewhere else
Yeah.
to get advice and guidance. Because that's kind of what happened to me. I didn't like what I was hearing. And so I rebelled and, I adopted other parents, my friends' parents,
Yeah.
I was kind of that little gypsy for a little bit.
Yeah.
And eventually my mom had to accept it because I kept doing it. And so it's funny is because when my daughter came about, my mom bonded with my daughter a lot. And she was much more, I noticed just from our conversations, like she was much more open with my daughter to
Wow.
hearing her truth than she was with me. And
Interesting.
I was like, I found that interesting. How many kids do you have?
So I raised four, but
Woo!
they were
Oh,
not mine. They were stepkids. So
right. But
that's a whole
still,
other realm. But I had them when they were small. So,
yeah,
it's like, yeah, yeah,
that's momming.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
instant mom.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how did that affect you with your mom, witnessing that she was more open with your daughter than she was you? Like, have you two had conversations about that?
Actually, what's funny is my relationship with my mom got cut short because she passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Um, no, thank you. But it was interesting. So I don't really come in it with any hurt feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was interesting and looking at my mom as a woman and not as my mom.
Ah,
Um,
that's cool.
how, yeah, well, I'm always trying to put myself in the other person's shoes. Because I don't feel I have a right to say anything unless I do, unless I
Yeah.
look at the other perspectives, you know? Um, so that's something that I always carry with me. And, just conversations between my daughter and I, and she shared, things that she's had with my mom. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Um, but, at the end of the day, I'm just grateful that I have a really good relationship with my daughter. And towards the end of my mom's life, I definitely had some very bonding talks. So when she
Beautiful.
did pass, because it was kind of all of a sudden, I had no regrets. I was grateful for the moments that I did have with her, and I'm glad that she saw me, because even though she didn't tell me face to face, as I went through her things, she wrote me a poem. She also wrote me journal entries and things like that. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So she wrote a poem for me. She has a poem published in a poetry book. She was very creative. She loved all the things that I'm interested in now was so much.
Isn't
But
that
I got to
sweet?
know my mom.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, and I got to know my mom after she passed away, going through her things, the things that she kept, the books that she picked. Um, we were on we are on very similar journeys. It's just she didn't finish, and
Hmm.
I feel like I'm kept picking that baton up and carrying on the legacy as far as healing
Wow.
and just getting into the creative part of myself because she was
Hmm.
definitely tapping into hers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's been my experience with my own mom as well as my daughter, 3 generations, and
Wow. That's powerful work.
yeah, yeah. But it seemed natural
Yeah.
for me just because I'm super open. I had to learn to kind of dial it back a little bit because
I
I share a
understand.
lot.
I understand. We have that in common.
Yeah, and that's kind of how Miss Renee and I worked together at my daughter's middle school. And that's kind of how she and I connected. And we've just been friends ever since, So that's how I connected with you, which I love to connect the dots and
Yeah.
figure out how things all transpire.
Yeah.
And, we're all connected in some way. So just being aware of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
So,
I just love the connection because I feel the love between you and your daughter. And I know that for myself, that's the one thing that I don't have that. I don't have that kind of relationship with my mother. It's been very adversarial. So it always warms my heart to hear of mothers and daughters who've been able to like really bridge differences, be able to come together and
mhm.
be friends and
Yes.
be relational with one another and hear each other out as far as our stories, which is it's rich. I mean, we're women.
Hmm.
We weave a tapestry of all sorts of stuff, the crazy and the creative and the
Right.
wonderful and just all of it, all of it.
Yes. Well, and the thing about tapping in, with your child, especially a daughter, that is your greatest mirror. Um, she is my mirror, and believe me, my mirror slapped me back a couple times. Actually, multiple times. And I'm not, you know, the generation above us is definitely a little bit, they don't admit that kind of stuff. And, they take it to another level of how could you disrespect me and, and they get in that mode. And I didn't want to be that with my daughter. So
Yeah,
there's been times where she slapped me and not physically, but you know what I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
gave me my own medicine.
yeah.
And it's like,
Hmm.
ooh,
Was there
let me sit
particular
in that.
topics? Were there particular topics that were common that kept coming up?
No, not really. Giving unsolicited advice.
Oh, yes. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, when
Guilty.
mothers do that.
Yes. Did I ask
And it,
you? No, you didn't
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it I allowed her to speak even as a teen. You know what I mean? And as we've grown and recent, she's an adult, and it's like, we're friends, but then she's also has shared, well, when you pull the mom card, you can't pull the mom card if we're having this conversation, you can't pull the mom card. And I'm just like, true. I guess there are boundaries
Yes.
being
That's very
crossed.
good. That's very good. That's a
Yeah,
testament to you that your influence has
yeah,
infused her with the ability to, give a little pushback, and to be her own
yeah,
person. She's
yeah.
not going to
Well,
back
she's
down.
grown. She's a grown woman, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like you can't really just make her like she's just this little girl anymore. She's not that anymore,
Yeah.
And so you gotta humble yourself as a mother as well,
Yeah. I
you
agree.
know?
I agree.
Yeah. Because once they're an adult, you can't play that
Right.
anymore,
Yeah. You don't want
you
to turn
know?
into the bad dragon mother. I mean, and there's so many of
No.
those. Like, when I witnessed that shit, like I saw something in a parking lot and this woman was berating her daughter verbally.
Mm.
It took all my energy to not go up to this woman and slap her. I
Yeah.
want to slap her
I
silly. And
totally
her daughter
identify.
was a teenager, and this girl was like, you could tell her body language was just all of a sudden very retracted, and she was looking
Mm.
down and she was hysterical, and it was really just mean and abusive. And I
Yeah.
have a particular sensitivity for that kind of thing, yelling,
Yeah.
name calling from your mother. It's like, stop.
Yeah. That's toxic.
Yeah, very, very toxic. Yeah. So
Mm.
the toxic relationships. I mean, that was one of the things that we were kind of batting around as topics, and
Yes.
particularly, uh, especially in Asian culture, Asian family, the
Yes.
Asian tribe. Um, and I mean, it's like it upholds a lot of the stereotypes, a lot of the role playing, a lot of the toxic behaviors that are sort of that get projected onto us, particularly as women, that we
Yes.
can't have an opinion, and we defer. It's like,
Well,
really?
we need to be mute.
Mhm. No.
Yeah, no.
Yet,
I
yeah.
and that has gotten me into trouble quite a lot is because, I don't like to be told what to do.
Mhm.
And island living, especially on Kauai, even though I live in the islands, Kauai particularly is very, very different from the rest. The way we live, our mentality, even our slangs and pidgin, how we talk, is very different from the rest of the the islands.
Mhm.
And what's prevalent around here is, you know, dysfunction, dysfun-
Yes.
dysfunctional dynamics in a household, um, to the level of, you know, what you witnessed, toxic language, and trying to be overbearing over the woman, and but yet there's also a good amount of women that I have connected with that are very strong women,
Mhm.
um even though toxic behavior, but very strong, like warriors, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I've been influenced by some of these women. So there has been a time where I have participated in the toxic behavior.
Mhm.
Um,
Can you
even
give an example?
even if oh um I've stood my ground. Um I refuse to back down. I as That's where my hard head comes in, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm. Yeah.
because, and I it's not necessarily that I think I'm right. It's more about needing to be heard, needing to be seen, and be respected.
Yeah.
Because if I'm giving it, then I expect it back.
Good. That's a
Um,
really good point.
yes, and but if someone doesn't come from what you're the same upbringing as you,
Yeah.
and they have a whole different type of behavior, and there's trauma, because there's a lot of trauma everywhere. You know, you can't, everybody says, oh, the islands, you know, you're just, everything's so rainbows and
It's
butterflies,
such a
you know.
stereotype. I don't know where people get that.
Well,
Hot
they
and,
still think we live
hot
in
and
huts.
humid. It's gonna like raise people's temperatures and their tempers. I mean, I've had people say that, and I'm going, no, mm-mm,
Mm-mm.
mm-mm. You know,
No, it's everywhere.
yeah, it is. It's everywhere. And people come to Kauai to party, to play, to lay out in the sun and have their vacations. Um, so it's a totally different thing, but they act like it's some utopia, island utopia. And I'm like, no, dude, no.
No, no, there's still real life and real problems, and
Mhm.
people deal with their own issues, you know. And I was very unaware of that kind of dynamic when I was a child, because I didn't come from too, I mean, there was toxic, but it was a different kind of toxic. It wasn't like, you know, what is extreme. And so when I encountered trauma from another person, it was different for me. I had to learn a whole new dynamic and a
Yeah.
whole new way of communicating.
Hmm.
And what I feel sometimes happens to women is, if you don't choose, like, instead of choosing the victim,
Hmm.
you choose the warrior.
Hmm.
And that's kind of, I chose the warrior. You know. And so I don't necessarily believe in victim, because we all have choices. And you know, when things are happening, I believe in that saying, you know, things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yes.
um there's purpose behind what's going on. And if you don't see the lesson, but you know, you have to be aware that there's a lesson.
Yes.
um
Yeah. Or have
but
that
it could be the,
mindset.
yes, and it could give you, it could push you to the greatest work of your life.
Hmm.
And I believe that wholeheartedly, because that's my personal experience, is that it has pushed me to do some great work on myself, because I don't think even the generation before me even got to the level where I'm at. So,
Yeah.
just to carry it on, because I'm realizing just now how much the programs come back, how much
Yeah.
the programs are constantly
Yeah. It's
running.
like poking at you. Hi, we're over here.
Yeah.
Do this instead.
Yeah.
Go back to sleep, please. We need you to
Yes.
go back to sleep.
Yes. Well, because we're a product of because all we're seeing is the matrix.
Yes.
That's all we're seeing, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
And, we do not have to dwell in those places. We can do it right here. And the greatest work is knowing yourself. And I didn't, how it all plays as levels, like in a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing yourself first.
So important.
It is, but it's like at first you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and the feelings that you're getting, and then you're like, you need clarity, but then you need to know yourself in order to have clarity. So
right.
it's like
you need to discern and be able to integrate those lessons, and also up level, discard the behaviors and the mental stupors that keep you trapped in those cycles. They have to go.
Yes.
And you can't default to them.
Yeah, it's kind of like a merry-go-round, and
I
yeah, I'm ready to jump off. It doesn't have to stop. Just let me jump off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So owning, like I've mentioned in my my email with you, just owning your shit, because nobody's a victim unless you say so. I mean, of course, in certain situations, I understand. I mean, there's really a lot of dissecting to go through with specific situations. And I'm very familiar with mental health, and very familiar with trauma that came from childhood. So it's like, even though I didn't experience that, I know a lot of people that have, and by getting, just talking to people and understanding their situation, I can sympathize and empathize with them, how someone could get into a situation and have a hard time getting out.
Yeah.
And not being able to see themselves in the mirror that they're looking at, yeah, my daughter, that's where daughter comes in, and she's really good. She'll just go, here you go, mom, this is what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It is very humbling to stand there or hold that space, be in integrity whilst you're getting humble pie from your children. And, yeah.
Oh, I take a big bite. I'll take a big bite.
Yeah, it's like,
it's all growth.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's all growth. And that self-responsibility, the accountability. And that's what I notice, in the matrix. People are not willing to be accountable for their feelings, for their thoughts, for their actions, their non-actions, inactions. It's just all willy-nilly, no responsibility.
And that's a hard thing for me to take, to witness. Especially if I'm involved in a relationship that does not do that. That's where the warrior girl comes out.
And it's the definition of toxic. You just there's no landing. There's no connectivity. There's you can't
No,
be relational if the other
no,
person is not going to take responsibility for their behavior, or at
right.
least entertain the possibility that, hey, maybe I should have a look at this because
Yeah,
I seem to be the common denominator. It keeps happening.
right. Hello.
Oops.
Well, and that's where I learned by looking at myself. I learned about reactive abuse. I never heard of that. And, here I was feeling bad because I was being this warrior and I could be, harsh. And that's a light word, just saying.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
I do.
I realize over time, because there was a time where I could just walk away and I don't know what you're talking about and just step out of that matrix and not react.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over time, that's where reactive abuse plays its part, and you're constantly reacting just by the little, because you're so sensitive already. It's
Yes.
like you've been
Yes.
poked enough
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
that, and I thought, wow, I don't think a lot of people are aware of this.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know that they don't. I mean, yes, own your stuff, be responsible, take accountability, but don't beat yourself up because you participated in the poor toxic behavior.
Right. Right.
Um,
It's
because
not
it does
helpful.
happen.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it does happen, and we're human, we're not perfect. So it's like, just learning more about the different dynamics in toxic relationships, and relationships in general,
Yeah.
even as friends, what can be toxic where it's one-sided, it's unrequited,
Right.
even
Right.
that kind of stuff. So learning that, and then learning my boundaries, learning what I am willing to put up with,
Yeah.
and instead of putting up, I choose
Yeah.
these relationships. This
Yeah.
is what I am doing. And being more clear with yourself what you're willing to put your energy towards.
Absolutely. That
Yeah,
is a really
so
a good point. And because I think in any relationship, the
mhm,
energy that we put in, like for me, having those tricky conversations where you're able to pinpoint your part in the toxic dynamic, you know, um,
yes,
there's
takes
criticism,
two.
criticism and defensiveness. They go together. If we feel
Yes.
criticized, we immediately feel justified to defend our position or to explain away. I was just so, because I was constantly criticized as a child. I couldn't do anything right. So it was always this explaining, or here, mommy, look what I did. I did it this way because, I could do a bullet point presentation
Yeah.
way back when, just a blow by blow accounting of the
Hmm.
steps that I took to try to make it the way she wanted it. And, it
Well,
doesn't work. It doesn't work in romantic relationships. It really doesn't work.
no, no. And what's funny is you mentioned that is that's really Asian upbringing too, And my mother made me watch Joy Luck Club as a teen.
Oh my God.
And I think she did it to help me understand her,
Mhm.
because, and I love the movie. I didn't understand it, of course, as a teen, And then I watched again as an adult, and I was like, okay, I can see what she was trying to do. Is she was wanting to see the reason why I am the way I am is because of this,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because she had it a lot harder than I did. I understand that. So I always look at things that way now, like not just what's happening to me, but what happened to them, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's kind of how my brain goes,
Yeah.
where it just kind of, she goes way wide,
Well,
far
we
and
need
wide.
to have the context of a situation to, for
Mhm.
me, everything in context gives me a vaster array of empathy and compassion,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes.
And I'm learning that for myself, to have that for myself, because I think
Yes.
you and I are very similar, where we tend to
Yes.
think about the other person and then we come in last, you know.
Yes.
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 I'm learning
Well,
that.
and then also forgiving, being forgiving yourself, having grace.
Mhm.
Don't beat yourself up,
Yeah.
it's okay. As long as we do better, we keep growing, we keep striving to do better, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's all we can do, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. I'm learning how to do that,
Yeah.
it is a constant application though,
Oh,
because relationships, what works at some juncture won't necessarily work all the time. So it's a real time decision on how to apply lessons, how to apply different communication strategies,
right.
how to deal with another person coming at you. It's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, I'm still learning that as well. I'm really good at being a hermit.
Me as well. I love it.
And I've just recently, you know, set up a lot of boundaries. So I just I don't have the energy to spread around.
Yep. Yeah.
I only have enough for me, and I have goals, and I have things that I want to do.
Yeah.
This is the second season of my life, and it's go time for me, you
Nice.
know? And that's how I'm looking at it, is like I have so much more life to live,
Yeah.
and I need to
Yeah.
get to it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I did the mom and the wife, and cater to the family and put myself last. Um, but really, when I turned 50, that's where it really made me go, okay, this is not sustainable.
Yeah. It's not.
This is not working. So I had to figure it out. And I pretty much went on a vacation. It was only going to be for 2 months, and I extended it for 4 months. And I finally could see myself. I
Wow.
couldn't see myself. I
Wow.
got lost in being a wife. I got lost in being a mom.
Yeah.
And I needed to see me, and I needed to get my head, because there were so much dreams that I had and goals that I wanted to
Oh,
achieve, but I just had no idea how to get there. And just wasn't clear in my mind. I've always been this dreamer. And when I became a mom, those things kind of got pushed into the background,
yeah.
rightfully so, because for my children, they are everything to me. They're my world, you know, but I also had to remember there was me,
It's such a
and we need
concept.
to find her.
It's foreign. Yes. So what was your process in finding yourself, in terms of, here you are, you're trapped. Where did you go, by the way? Did you go anywhere good? Obviously you did.
Well, I did. I have friends, so because I'm an island girl, I always gotta make sure I know the lay of the land and I know somebody where I'm going. I'm not gonna just go and be free, although my younger self would have done that. So now that she's more seasoned and she knows better, she went to Mississippi. I have some friends that live up there, and I stayed there for about a month, a little bit over a month. And then I have friends in Washington, and I stayed with them for a couple months. My son lives in Oregon, so I did spend some time with him. And then I have an auntie also in Oregon. I spent some time with her. But I had a lot of downtime, like alone time, because they're a family. They already
Yeah.
had things
Yeah.
going on. So there was a lot of time where I would sit by myself
Wow.
and just kind of be in my thoughts. I would journal a lot, because journaling helps me dump,
Oh,
because
it's so good. It's so good. It's the
it,
best. I love it.
it's so helpful, and recently I learned another way of journaling, another purpose for journaling is when you want to have those difficult conversations, but yet
Yes.
you don't want to have a confrontation or anything.
Mhm.
I would write the conversation down,
Sweet.
you
Yeah.
know, has helped me so much. And of course, learning law of assumption and scripting,
Beautiful.
those are my go-to tools now.
Yeah.
As far as, instead of wanting to react out there, we're going here.
Yeah.
We're
Go
staying
in
in
here.
here.
Yeah. That's so
Yes.
good. I love it. Kind of reverse engineering reality. Go to the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I
Yes.
reside.
And
I reside at the end result
yes.
and assume
Well,
it
and
to be
always
so.
we always, and what's great is the revision, being able to
Yes.
revise,
Mhm.
like what happened? I
What's
don't know
that?
what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. What? And I realized, I have encountered people that do that naturally.
Yeah. Yes.
And before, I used to think, what the heck is wrong with you? That was just it, because I'm all about the reality right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big, big new age bullshit. Like everybody got sucked into that whole thing. And it really did some
Hmm.
damage, I think. Really
Yeah,
did some damage for a lot of people.
it can get toxic.
Yeah.
It can get
Yeah.
toxic,
Because then you're just focusing in on it. And if you don't like it, you're stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
yeah. You
love
gotta,
Neville Goddard. I just love Neville Goddard.
yes,
He's my dude, that one.
yes. Oh, yes. And my girlfriend, I have a really good friend that introduced me to it. When I was going through just recently, when went through a difficult time. And it has flipped the script for
Nice.
me as
Love it.
far as healing, elevating myself, rising above and rising to the occasion.
Beautiful.
And like you said, awakening goddess and gods and goddesses. Yes, my inner goddess definitely came out. And, you know, it's like sometimes her crown gets a little tilted and then oh no, we got to put it back on.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, it's empowering. It's empowering, and we can do it all alone by ourselves.
Yeah.
We do not need outside validation. We do not need to ask, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
Because we can self-correct, because
That's what it's about.
it's all
It's
right here.
that application of the first hermetic principle of mentalism. There it is. I mean, Neville Goddard talked about that. We have the gift of mind and speech.
Yes.
Like, what? I can change my mind? Change your mind, change your reality. I mean, it's just so
Yes.
like mind-blowing to me. you know?
It's magic.
Yeah.
It's real deal magic. You know, because you can have anything you want.
Yeah.
You know, and just the secret sauce with that is patience. You know, be
Yeah.
patient because it isn't going to happen like that,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, fill your life with things that make you feel good. You know, have a list
Yeah.
of
Have
things
a
that make you
list
feel good
of
to,
those simple pleasures, you know?
yes, like ice cream.
Ice cream. I have my plants, my plants. I love my plants so much.
I love your plants though. They're beautiful. And you know, I love being outside in nature.
Yeah.
I like to sit and talk to the trees. I'm surrounded by trees where I live. So, you know, that's something I'm super grateful. And then animals, my animals, I have 2 dogs and they're just so healing. I love animals. You know, and just whatever makes you feel good. But
Mhm.
it's really like, you know, when that question got asked to me, it took me a little while to answer, especially if you're not used to it. You
Yeah.
know, like what does make me feel good? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I really had to sit with myself. So, you know, when I was away, that was a whole different layer of growth because
Mhm.
I was homesick. I got homesick for a little while. Um, but you know, that helped me to be by myself, to learn to
Right.
be by myself, to be okay. And that kind of stems from, you know, I was also going through an empty nesting phase, you know.
Oh,
It
I
was a
know
period
how
of
that is.
years.
Oh, I'm still not
It's
over it.
hard.
I'm still not over it. I'm still not over it.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
And you know, nobody really talks about the empty nest. I mean, I've heard the term, but they don't really,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of discussion about it.
Hmm.
And then I kind of, you know, I kind of went down the rabbit hole and went on Facebook and found empty nesting groups. I didn't really align with any of those. So I ended up backing out of that, you know, and saying, okay, well, your process is different. You're going through something. Um, but what I realized nobody really talks about is after the kids are gone and it's just you and your spouse.
Oh,
What?
yeah. Yeah. See,
What?
I've left all my relations. So I was always just when the kids were gone, it was just me. So,
Yeah,
but
see,
I hear what you're saying. It's like, oh my God. Okay, that's a
that's a whole nother
whole
animal.
holy shit.
But I thought, you know, that's something that I wanted to talk about it on a
Hmm.
podcast.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I am in the process of creating my own podcast as well. And I thought that's a great topic to talk about because it's like it's almost like getting to know each other all over
All
again,
again. Yeah.
you
Wow.
know, because you're filtered by the kids,
Right.
you know. You're filtered by all the activities and the friends and the gatherings and all that. And then once the kids are gone, it's just you
Yeah.
and them and you're like, you know, you see
Oh,
couples where if you're okay with being in silence, it works. Um, but if, you know, your partner maybe requires more or asks more of you because
hmm.
now you don't have to tend to the kids anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm pulling back because I got
Yeah.
stuff that I want to do.
Wow. Did he
You know,
participate in the kids?
yes. Uh yes. But pretty much I ran the household
Hmm. Okay.
because,
Yeah.
you know, head honcho mama. I was very, very a strong mom. But it was more, I was running the show in that sense. And so I kind of didn't give him a chance um to build a dynamic with me. And
Mhm.
so, and it goes back to traditional things where, the man does this. It's all about the gender roles, and the man does this and the woman does this. And it was like, no, not in my book. We are both grown ass adults,
Wow,
and
good for you.
both of us are responsible for our own shit. And now that we don't have to, mom or dad, I think we should take this time to take care of ourselves
Mhm.
as individuals as well as together.
Yeah.
But to
Wow.
me, taking care of yourself first is important, and that's been an interesting experience for me.
I take it he was
Uh,
not receptive to that or resistant.
no, a little bit resistant, set in ways, and it's following tradition pretty much,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do here.
Yeah.
I'm not your average bird,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's kind of how it played out, where I'll go against the grain. I am gonna speak my mind, and I am gonna hold my ground when it comes to my independence. As far as I am loyal, and I am that wife that will go to the ends of the earth for you,
Yeah. Me as well. Until I
but
don't.
it needs to be
Until I'm done.
right.
Or I find out
Exactly.
shit, that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. Well, and it needs to be an equal exchange. It cannot just be
Yes.
one
No,
sided,
it
you
cannot.
know. But we put up with stuff, and I think a lot of people do. They put up with stuff
Yeah.
while you're raising kids, because you're raising kids.
Yeah.
You don't address those things because there's kids, you know. And so once it's just you and them, it's a whole different ball game. And I think that there should be more information out there
I agree.
for
I agree.
couples.
That is a whole genre topic right there. That's cool. I
Yes,
encourage you.
a seasoned couple, not your brand new couple raising a family and everything,
Right.
but a seasoned couple that recently have empty nested. And what is that journey like
Yeah.
for people? What
Yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes. So still learning those things as I go along, and it takes me to one of the topics you've mentioned is ageism. Um, I don't know, but for me, turning 50 was the most awesomest thing. It's almost like you earned your badge. Like
yeah.
you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
60 is even better.
oh, I bet. That's
Yeah.
why, and see, I'm around people, or I was around people that had the total opposite take on it. They look at it as like, oh, I'm getting old, and I'm, it's like it's almost like they
Yeah. They
downgrade
just get
themselves.
sucked into that that it's a death grip, really. I mean, I
Yeah.
just see
And
people who were once really vibrant. They get to a certain age, and it's like you run into them like within weeks, and you're like, "What the fuck happened to you?" Like, I'm just like stunned because the the contrasting experience that I'm experiencing with them is like I don't know what happened.
yeah. Well, and it's
They
what
gave
they're
up.
telling themselves. It's
Mm-hmm.
a story
Yeah,
they tell themselves.
that self talk.
And it doesn't need to be that way. I
Yeah,
mean, to
I agree.
me, this was like the best time of your life. As long as you take care of your vessel,
Yes.
you're good. You're
Yeah.
golden, because you're going to be able to do things. If you want to do things, then of course, self care is a thing. You need to take care of yourself, mind, body, soul. And, do the great work, as you would say.
Yeah. Do the great work. It's like, what do you want? What the audacity to want things, the audacity to create, the
Yes.
audacity, like I love that you are, in the brewing of your podcast. I mean, I love the
Hmm.
topic.
Yes. Yes, there's just so much things I could talk about or just bring awareness to.
Yeah.
It's because
Yeah.
I don't consider myself an expert. I just consider myself someone that had experiences.
Yeah.
And
Direct experience.
yeah, when people need to hear it. Just there's somebody out there
Yeah.
that needs to hear it so that they can say, "Oh," because that's happened to me
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
times. Like,
And that's
"Oh,
cool. Yeah. And I
yeah, of
also,
course."
what we were also batting around, the whole thing of creativity, because in my opinion, I think the things that we want to create, the things we feel passionate about, the things we want to share, our interests, our observations, our direct experiences, when we put that out there, I think what's happening is we're actually summoning life force creative energy to run through our tissues. And it gives us more
Right.
energy, more vibrance, more youth, more
Hmm.
just that joie de vivre for life, more
Yes.
curiosity. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. It's like they just get tired and they get old. They have no interest whatsoever in learning a skill, learning a language, learning an instrument, any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you're summoning life force energy when you have a goal, when you have an intention, when you're
Hmm.
living intentionally,
Right.
asking those
Well,
questions.
that's where health comes in, though, taking care of
Yes.
yourself, self-care, and it's not just going and getting a massage. It's really what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
And that contributes to how your brain's working, how
Yeah.
you're thinking. And if you don't feel good inside, you're not going to want better
Yeah. Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. You're just going to succumb to the sort of droning affectation of, that just the zombies in the Matrix. Oh, I
Yeah,
finished work, therefore I am going to retire and I'm going to die. I know people like this. They
same.
retire and they work these shitty jobs that they hate, and
Hmm.
they're dead within 3-4 years.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and I've heard that from younger people that are younger than me. And I'm just like, no. But then again, I have to say, Malia,
yes.
that's their
That's their
journey.
journey.
Let it
Exactly.
go.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, it's so interesting, this experience of life. And there's so many tools out there for us.
Yes.
And we're not all tapped in. And it's like, if in a perfect world, I would love it if everybody was. But I also have to have grace to
Hmm.
allow
Yeah. Yeah.
what's going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that law of allowance. Everybody has a right to be
Hmm.
exactly as they are, different from you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was so hard for me to
Yeah.
accept, because
Yeah.
and of course I still do what I do because I want that same thing. I want people to be tapped in to
Hmm.
their special sauce, because they are special sauce. And I
Yes.
can convince people, but for the people that are ready and eventually or run into me somehow randomly, it's way cool. And
It
I
is.
think when we get on the topics of ageism, we get on the topics of health, and particularly this post, the COVID, it's like, oh my God, like I just like witnessing that shit. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like going, this shit is actually going down in front of me. And I had just turned 60 in 2019. So, and I was living in Europe, and then all of a sudden it's like your work visas are over. It's over, it's done. And you're like, what is going on here? And then to watch the whole scene just contract and get small, and everybody's world.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like, what? And
Yeah.
what did I do? I started a YouTube channel instead. It's like, let me just.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. But still, it was witnessing that. And I think a lot of people are just so still, they have yet to come to terms with what I think the PTSD of all that on like this global scale, let alone the individual, because we were all affected individually, very, very uniquely.
Right. Well, it blows my mind that still a lot of people have not learned from it.
Yes. Yeah, that's quite sad.
It's interesting. It's just interesting. I look at it and I'm like,
wow.
Okay, well, okay. Because to me it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call. And it really kind of said we've gotten lazy as a people, and that we need to do better, practice better hygiene, practice better, just be better as far as taking care of our health and being conscious about it, paying attention to your environment, just better practices, and I learned from it, I have not gotten sick, but I know a lot of people that have. And
I haven't gotten sick either.
Well, and plus I've been really I ramped up taking care of myself as far as my health and everything, and paying attention to who I put myself around. Because I used to have that little bit FOMO, fearing missing out. So I always wanted to be out there, and that was in my younger time. But as I got older, it's like I am okay with not being at the functions and at the parties and all those things, and then COVID kind of taught everybody that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, thank you, COVID, because now,
well, and I was in my natural state, my natural hermit state. So it didn't really, the only thing that changed was that I was not traveling anymore, but other than that, I was doing my normal stuff, staying in my lane. Staying in my lane. Yeah.
Safe.
Oh my God. So how are you doing for time? I mean, we've been at it for a while. And oh my God, we've gone through all our topics. Well, I love this, not buying into what society says.
Yeah. I'm a fact checker, and I don't necessarily believe just the first thing that I find. And I do go down rabbit holes, I'll admit. And I'm a Google queen. But I also like to get feedback from people, connecting with other people. But society, like you've promoted, you've talked about matrix. I mean, society is the matrix in my,
really is.
And plus I've recently come into new language like the 3D, you know, the matrix is the 3D. And you know, you practice the law. None of it matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of it
Yeah.
matters.
We're creating our own reality each and
we are.
time. Yeah. The
Yeah.
world is
And I
not
just
the planet. The world is not, the world is the matrix. The planet
Yes.
is actually the true quantum field creation field universe. I mean, that's where we belong. That's creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, you know, don't just buy everything that someone's selling, you know. That's why I always say I'm not buying what you're selling, because you know,
I'm
I
gonna
need
pass.
to,
Thank you.
right, let me check, you know. I you know, I have a list, a growing list called the GTS list, which is Google that shit. You know, and if I run into a wall, then I just kind of go, okay, you know, maybe this is open for discussion somewhere else, you know.
Yeah. I do
But
the
I
same
just
thing.
don't take it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. And then I apply the law of mentalism. It's like, well, how do I want it for real? How do I want it for me? And I go there and that's what I get. It's like, it's kind of cool. It's like, well, I didn't experience that one, you know? And I think that's important for us to be able to, because what are we doing? We're creating our own layer of the true quantum field creation field universe, or we're complying with the matrix shitstems.
Yeah, I don't, I even that word just kind of makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as complying, you know.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah.
Right. Well, and then plus at this time, this season of life, I think it's perfect to say, you know, we have the right to not give a fuck.
Yeah. Yes. Fuck yeah.
You know, because like really, and I have bought that book. I have yet to read it, but you know, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I'm definitely Mark Mason. I love his writings because he's so straight up, and you know, I resonate with people that are honest and raw and speak their truth, you know. And that has a lot to do with existing in this days, you know, speaking the truth, being true to yourself.
Yeah. Doesn't it allow you to relax? Like when I'm around people like you, around people who just say what they say, do what they say they're going to do. There's a way that I just can drop in and relax, because I think we have this real innate compass that knows, we have a bullshit meter that goes off when it's like
so much.
Okay, I think not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of course you do. But that's what I like about people who are really straightforward. You know where you stand.
Yes, I appreciate people, and you know, I have a lot of, you know, friends that are this way, and they're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But for me, you know what you're gonna get. You know, I mean, I love the friend that will tell you, no, you're being an asshole, and this is what I think. You know, and
me as well. I am
it'll
that
make
friend.
me self-reflect. Yes, I love it. I love it. You know, I raised like, the daughter the same way.
Yeah, it's too late. You know, I'm just like, people will. I've had lots of my old friends and acquaintances. Do you think, you know, like we'll be in a public situation? You know, I haven't seen them. Do you think you could just like, just kind of dial it down just a teensy weensy bit? I'm like going, no, why invite me then? You know who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, don't tell me a lie because I'm going to spill it. Don't tell me what you're up to and then tell me, oh, don't tell this person. I'm not your girl. I'm really not your girl. I can't do it.
Right. No, it feels uncomfortable in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah. So
Wow.
what's on the horizon for you before we close? You got the podcast. Do you have a
Yes.
timeline for that, sweetheart?
You know, I don't. It has actually been, I have been collecting information, and I just recently launched my virtual administrator
Oh,
business
cool.
online.
Okay.
So that's kind of starting out for me.
Okay.
And I'm wanting to help other entrepreneurs to do, want better, do better. And
Wait.
more in the spiritual sense and not just all about logistics online. Because I just feel that's the vehicle that's going to get me
Yeah.
to where I
Cool.
want to go,
Okay.
So yes, but my podcast is called Malia Talk, and it's called Minding Her Business.
Wait.
So
Sweet. Okay. We'll have all the information for Malia and her work in the show notes below. Yeah. So
yes, ma'am.
that's exciting. Thank you so much for your time. It's just been fun. I mean, the time just went, whoop, it just flew
I know. Thank you.
very, very, very quickly. I appreciate your wisdom, your insights, your beauty. I just find you just, absolutely delightful and fiery. And the podcast will be a success. I'm very, very confident that it will be. And so
Thank you.
thanks so much.
I see why Miss Renee connected us.
Yeah, I miss her. I haven't seen or talked to her for a long time. So, I'm
Yeah,
sure
me
it's
too.
just-
It's time for me to reach out again.
yeah. So when you do, give her my love and give her my regards.
I will.
Okay. All right, my darlings, that is it for this episode. So until next time, here's to your love, truth, and beauty. Bye for now, beloveds. Mwah. Ciao, Bellas. Ciao, ciao, ciao.